Scalar valued functions take a scalar as an input and output a scalar. So in this example, the point here is described by two scalar functions. Now in contrast, a vector valued function takes a scalar as an input and outputs a vector. And here is an example of a special type of vector known as the position vector, which is measured from the origin, and that vector gives the location of that point. So what we do is add the horizontal dimension, which is x, and x equals f of t, and we multiply this by the unit vector I, which gives the direction along the x-axis. So I has a magnitude or length of 1. And similarly in the vertical direction, we multiply the y-coordinate of the point, which is given by g of t, by the unit vector in the vertical direction. And you can observe this visually over here. So effectively drawing the position vector along the curve in this interval traces out that curve. And we'll see that in an example. We can extend the methods for differentiating real or scalar valued functions to vector valued functions. So suppose we have the vector valued function that takes an input t, and that gives the following position vector. Well, similarly, we can write r at t plus delta t as follows. And using vector addition, we can obtain a relationship between r at t plus delta t and r of t. Where delta r is the secant vector between 2 points along the curve. And rearranging this equation, and dividing through by delta t. And now if you take the limit from both sides, as delta t approaches 0, we get the derivative of r with respect to t. And I encourage you to make these substitutions and use the rules for limits, and you'll be able to write the derivative as follows. And now if you differentiate this first derivative, you'd obtain a second derivative in the following form. And note that when we differentiate, the unit vectors I and j do not change magnitude or direction, so they just remain constant. Let's plot the curve traced out by this vector valued function. So x of t is equal to t, and y of t is equal to 1 minus t squared. So what we'll get are the following values from t equals minus 1 to 2. And now we can draw vectors from the origin to these points. So the first point is at minus 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 2 minus 3. So basically our curve is going to look something like this. So we plotted the curve described by this vector valued function, which is a parabola, from t equals -1 to 2. And now we're asked to find the tangent to the curve described by the following vector valued function when t equals 1. So if we differentiate this vector valued function, we obtain the horizontal unit vector minus 2t by the vertical unit vector. And when t equals 1, we obtain I minus 2j. So as we can see, when t equals 1, we're looking at the point 1, 0. So the tangent vector is going to look something like this. So for every 1 unit in the horizontal direction, the vector goes down 2 units in the vertical direction. So in other words, the slope is minus 2, which makes sense. We can extend the methods for integrating real valued functions to parametric or vector valued functions. Now suppose we have the instantaneous rate of change of position with respect to time. So in this case that represents the velocity, but this can be any rate function. So what we do first is separate the variables. Where the derivatives are written in shorthand notation, and now we can integrate both sides. So we can take the unit direction vectors outside the integral, because they're constant, and use the addition rule to break this up into 2 integrals. And then once you evaluate these integrals, you're going to get the position is equal to some function plus a constant of integration for the horizontal direction, then plus the y component of the position plus a constant of integration in the vertical direction. And now you can apply your given initial condition and evaluate those constants of integration. And we'll do that in an example problem. Given the following vector valued rate function, find an equation for r. If we have the following initial condition. So if we separate the variables, and integrate both sides of the equation, then we obtain the following result. Where cx and cy are the constants of integration. And now applying our initial condition, then what we obtain for the component of this vector in the horizontal direction is 3 is equal to 1/3 by e to the power of 3 by 0 plus the constant of integration. And in the vertical direction, we obtain pi on 4 is equal to minus cosine of 0, which is 1, plus the constant of integration. And now you can solve for the constants of integration, substitute them back into this equation, and you found your equation for r. We can describe the motion of a particle moving along a planar curve using parametric or vector valued functions. And given we're looking at motion problems, the parameter t represents time. So the velocity is obtained by differentiating the position vector with respect to time. And differentiating the velocity with respect to time is the same as obtaining the second derivative of position with respect to time, and that gives us the acceleration. Now if we integrate the velocity vector with respect to time, between time t0 and time t, well that gives you the displacement, or the change in position, over that interval of time. And from this you can solve for the position. So recall that the instantaneous speed is the magnitude of the instantaneous velocity, which is written as follows. And if you integrate this with respect to time, from time t0 to time t, well, that gives you the total distance the particle has travelled, or the length of the curve from time t0 to time t. And you can recognize this as the arc length integral. And similarly, if you integrate the acceleration with respect to time, that gives you the change in velocity over that time interval. The following function describes the motion of a particle along a curve, and we're asked to describe the motion by analysing the velocity and acceleration vectors at several points along the curve. So differentiating the position with respect to time, we get the velocity. So we can see that this is a parametrization of a circle with a radius of 1. So substituting for t is 0, we get the velocity pointing in a vertical direction. And drawing in the velocity vectors by plugging in the relevant values for t, they look something like this at these points. And now the acceleration can be obtained by differentiating the velocity with respect to time. And plugging in those different values for t, you're going to get the acceleration vectors all pointing to the center. So we call this acceleration as a centripetal acceleration, or center-seeking acceleration that keeps the particle travelling along a circular path.